think we are live. Let's just check. Let's go watch the stream and see from there. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Hello, this is what it sounds like now. Is my audio better? A bit louder? My audio better? A bit louder? Okay, I think we're good now. My audio better? A bit louder? Okay, I think we're good now. My audio better? A bit louder? Okay. We're good now. So today we're going to be talking about one of the new things Jen has been vibe coding, and it's related to raids. So onwards to Farcastle. Let's wait for Jen to call in. Should actually see if we can get him in on the Video Ninja stream. See if this Video Ninja works out. There we go. Got the nice little in and out.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yep. It's open actually. What? You sent so far.
Hey.
Oh yeah, one of the things was Solana blinks.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. Hey, can you hear me?
So yeah, blinks is interesting, but it's kind of the same as Farcaster actions and Farcaster frames, except the thing I like about Farcaster is that uses like the standard open graph format.
Yeah.
Oh wait, there's Jin. Hold on. Yo.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, sorry, I had you muted. I can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
Word.
Hey. Yeah. I'm not too. I'm just gathering research. Just not really sold on any particular solution yet.
Hmm.
I'm trying to offer options, like for example, American Idol. They had an app, a website, and you could text 2 votes.
Hmm.
So I'm just trying to open up participation channels
Yeah.
to get maximum participation, rather than just like
Yeah.
limit ourselves.
For sure. And I think like both will get used, right? Like this will get used for Solana stuff, and then um, for EVM stuff, we all have like Farcaster frames, but um, the pattern is still the same. And I think this is kind of going to be the direction crypto tech needs to take in the next few years. Is the thing we tried and failed at the last few years was basically trying to build like Web3 alternatives to Web2 stuff, and it kind of just ended up being like its own completely isolated little ecosystem that like the whole rest of the world knew nothing about and like couldn't really interact with. Whereas I think now it's going to be much more about bridging it with Web 2 context, or just not necessarily Web 2 context, but just context where people already are. And we meet them there. So using like standards like URLs to encode, in this case, different on-chain actions, whether in EVM or Solana, um, it becomes like in a more accessible format. Then obviously, yeah, with like
Yeah.
agents and all that, it's like
Yeah. And I was looking some it still feels a bit early, not fully fleshed out for Solana, and there's only Rabby and Phantom that support memos for voting, which is
hmm.
a good backup option. Next, I want to kind of do um, regular sign in a modal. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, if you want to vote on something, you can just like click and vote on it, and we can capture that. But let me see if I could show you where things are at in terms of the project and walk through it a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, you can screen share here if you want.
Yeah, I just have to stop this other service.
Hmm. Is sound and audio quality noticeably better than Discord for you on this?
It's relatively the same.
Hmm. Let me switch you over to seeing this.
Okay, I found it. Okay, cool. if my screen is sharing.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Let me start it and okay. So here's what I've got built so far.
Mhm.
And one part of it is, like to archive episodes, but the thing is, like, this is almost like an automated hackathon. You submit your project, we'll analyze and score it with the agents,
Mhm.
and they have different multipliers based on their area of expertise.
Yeah.
We do a deep research, and we have a GitHub analyzer as well, which I could share the script. It just kind of uses git ingest to download. Actually, it does two steps. So the first step is it agentically analyzes to see what might be the most, like, by pulling the information from GitHub API,
Yeah.
kind of like the files, and then passes it to OpenRouter to, like, see, okay, what are the files that are most important for context, and then it passes that for git ingest, include exclude, so that we can get a bunch of context in less than 50k tokens or so
Mhm.
about that repo, and then it'll analyze it, and then look for red flags and stuff. And I added, here's like a dashboard. I got a few things in here, like to vote. I have Discord also for submitting. So tying it to Discord because that's where the main comms channels are, and I also wanted a way for people to update their submissions later,
Mhm.
and then this is what am I using? React hook form.
Got it.
Using React hook form.
Yeah.
And it's pulling from a JSON schema. I could update it, and it's a version schema as well.
Mhm.
And I've got a migration stuff and everything. But yeah, I also have this convenience feature here. You can just download the JSON template
Mhm.
and vibe fill it, and then re-upload it. And I was thinking, like, going through a bunch of stuff in the GitHub pipeline for what people have been doing across all the repos we're tracking,
Mhm.
and as well as the Discord analysis, and then, like, vibe filling a bunch of stuff here, just so I can, like, bait a bunch of devs to submit projects with a half-finished form,
Mhm.
like, hey, like, noticed you've been working on this, and
So
like,
a really cool way to do this would basically be to store the form state in the URL, um, and then that way the URL
oh, that's
becomes like
cool.
a pre-filled form. So yeah, when you're vibe coding, you can just tell the agent to store the form state in the URL. Is this like Next.js or what did it use for the actual code base?
I've got a breakdown of the tech stack. I've got Fast API,
What's the front end using?
React,
Okay, just
and
plain React.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's all good. It should still work. The and yeah, I think so. The goal. So here's what I was thinking. Like, this form is basically like a form for a raid, and you want to kind of get people to categorize their work or kind of say what work they're working on. And is this you imagined like specifically for coding stuff, or is there non-coding stuff in this as well?
I'm leaving it pretty open. I do want it to be a force function for people to test out and create V2 agents.
Mhm.
although it's generally open because I want people to also test out how to red team the agents, do all sorts of things that we can catch now
Yeah.
with an internal hackathon
Yeah.
before we raise the stakes.
Got it. So people are expected to be submitting like repos, right? They're not going to submit anything other than
They
code
can
here.
submit even fake stuff,
Yeah.
whatever.
But it's
Throw a
like
bunch of
the
stuff.
system is designed to be analyzing code and software contributions, right? Like there's not going to
Right now,
be
yeah,
any.
yeah.
Okay, so
I
like
have GitHub URL as like that's a required one,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah,
So I think what we can do with this is so there's two types of contributions, right? Like these kind of open contributions where people are like making their own repos and submitting it, and then also like contributions to like existing repos that people might have done. So being able to essentially like group together PRs or issues, and following this model of using AI to first like analyze and score the most atomic elements of a thing, and then progressively kind of summarizing like higher level representations of those things. So, if people submit a repo or something, they could like group together a certain number of PRs that were related to like a certain feature or something, and implement that as a thing. If it's like purely people submitting their own agents, it could look a bit different, but we could use the same underlying mechanism of like scoring the code that we use in for example like the main repo, and it would just like analyze the PRs, or if people submitting hackathon projects, and people might not be using PRs and might be committing directly. So
yeah.
that's another thing we'd have to handle too, is like reading through like the commits on the like default branch and also PRs.
For now, I just want to make sure like we can detect obvious like I have some of the prompts to be skeptical, and the premise with the DAO was like AI agents being investors, right?
Yeah.
And Clank Tank has had this manual pipeline in which people would submit a type form, and we would send it to a Google Sheet, and then we would create the episodes individually.
Yeah.
I'm trying to streamline all of that, and also kind of foster community participation in this.
Hmm.
Like there's always been asks for the token to do something,
Yeah.
and I want to tie that into here and also going back to the original narrative of, like AIs as kind of like managing a treasury and investing in projects, and
Hmm.
right now there's not like a treasury for it yet, but like I do have this I'm using Helios, and you can like send some tokens to it. We have a goal. It'll show whatever's in its wallet, and
Hmm.
maybe we could do like a NFTs for participation or
Yeah.
contribution or and winners, but also the people who make it to the finalists. We have a pipeline in here that it generates an episode. So then like the live stream is already edited. We
Hmm.
can just like premiere it, and we all like kind of tune in to Clank Tank to kind of see. It leaves at a cliffhanger in round one,
Hmm.
and it opens it up for community feedback, which people can do through like giving a. I'm not counting this thumbs up and down yet, but that
Hmm.
it's tied to Discord. We have a Discord bot for it, so we could do
Yeah.
something like where it's we could maybe analyze like what roles a person has, and only like let certain people leave reviews. Like if you're a partner, which is 100k tokens or more,
Hmm.
you could leave a review here, and maybe that gets a TTS shout out, which
Mm.
would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Um, Stuff like that I think would be very, yeah, I just want to make it fun. DAOs,
Hmm.
we launched on DAOs.fun, and DAOs haven't been that fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of crawling through forums and stuff, and I want it to be like a game show,
Yeah.
but it's also like a VC thing too.
Mhm. Yeah, I
So
think so. There's two things here. One, I think this like hackathon format and these sort of episodes and people like submitting hackathon projects. It's good for like trialing and experimenting with all these things, but I think in terms of like long-term sustainability and actual, uh, you know, actually realizing the dream or sort of vision of ElizaOS, it'll actually require, things more than just like hackathon projects. So,
yeah,
because like this has happened in a lot of ecosystems in crypto where the teams, and whatever L2 or project will fund a bunch of hackathons. And with hackathons, people are incentivized to basically like, just vibe code prototypes that like look
and
as
if they
impressive as
tokenize
possible.
it, it might just be like a pump and dump.
Yeah, yeah, and it doesn't really incentivize sort of long-term project building and sort of like continuous improvement on some sort of core competency or area. So I think, if we think about Elisa OS and like what are the different moving parts of it, having people like really good people incentivized to like own certain segments and or certain plugins or whatever and really like build them out and develop them um, and maintain them properly.
Right now, we're at this point where the devs have been working so much on the architecture, framework, and bug fixing that we're hitting this kind of plateau where the only way to improve it is to dog food and make agents.
Yeah.
So that was also like a motivation
Mm.
to construct this so that we can like go through the motions of creating agents ourselves
Yeah.
and yeah, have fun like with AI judges like gauging each of them.
Hmm. Yeah. So with these agents too, I think like however we structure this, it should incentivize people to like uh, not just be churning out, new stuff for every like new hackathon, and it's like just code that gets put out and never used or benefits anyone. But it really incentivizes people to create agents around certain use cases that then are forkable or extendable, and the person really focuses on optimizing that one agent. It's like the quote would be, I don't fear the man that has made 1,000 agents, but I fear the man that has made one agent 1,000 times. Um,
Yep,
and so,
I've
uh,
heard that for tickers.
yeah, so then, you know, you still want though a recurring format. Um, you know, because of that, like,
Well, yeah, there's also like in Shark Tank as well. They do cuts where they also like follow up with people who got funded to see where they're at with their business.
exactly. And I think like we should with like something like software development, I want to lean into that even more and like have it where it's much more so like continuous check-ins into like a
I
certain
think this could be
type of
like a
thing.
so like there's like a part of the website where it's on the Eliza How to the partners section. It's had this opaque process where you would apply with the type form and it would go to like the biz dev team who would maybe like set up a call or something
Hmm.
and then like you get listed. But I'm aiming to like open up transparency there. Oh, I forgot the docs changed. Now it's a different docs site. But yeah, this is like a way where we could like have a new vetting process for partners and then implement, because it's going to cost some tokens, like health monitor checks for the ecosystem to
Mm.
kind of see like what are our partners working on. Maybe, yeah, just kind of like health checking this decentralized ecosystem and uh, seeing if there's ways that we can uh, support each other better
Yeah.
that way. And that's an incentive in a way because it's
Hmm.
going to cost, some data pipelines, API keys, and tokens to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, the I think it's very um you know honing in on that like UX pattern of individuals contributing small amounts of their own capital as like high quality signal, um and then like that informs the AI uh, uh in terms of like the health of certain things and or like what the priority should be, and the in terms of like the rewards for that initially can just be like cosmetic rewards or things like that, where during this like 30-day period at the end of it, it's expected like whichever are the top projects selected, like those will get a certain prize, both the people that built that project but also all the people that funded it or curated it by either pitching in tokens or Sol or whatever it is. So
Yeah, this is how the database looks right now. Um, I've got community votes, which is it's tracking the blockchain
hmm
for the text kind of equivalent text to vote.
yeah.
Scoring, which is what all the AIs do for round one when they kind of initially get the GitHub and deep research.
hmm
And it'll update as well the status and all that.
hmm
Submissions, likes, dislikes, which um, not really used for anything yet. Prize pool contributions. So this one I gotta kind of work on and bug fix a little bit, but
mm.
like tracking who contributed what
Yeah.
can later reward them.
So here,
So
so
once,
this is the
yeah,
key part, I think, is like the contributions that come in. Like if you just have it as like contributions going into a generic prize pool, you lose a lot of valuable potential information there, which is which sort of project or agent or whatever would that person have allocated that capital to if they were to like curate or select what's prize worthy. So
so
instead
instead of
of
making a bunch of separate addresses, what about sending a memo to like notify which project they want to contribute to, or like buying an
maybe,
NFT
but
like
it's
Juicebox?
not, it shouldn't be that hard to like generate an address or a contract for every project submission. It can be automated. Um,
True.
like just with a smart contract. You have like project ID and then, whatever funds for that project were contributed by which person. Um, and so, it could be like represented even as an NFT or something where contributing to that project like mints you an NFT, um, with like the metadata of that project that you funded or something. There's different
Yeah.
ways of going about it, but that pattern in general where people, because like that's the participatory aspect. Like you want people who are not just devs to be able to participate in this in a meaningful way, and that comes to like capital allocation. And it's essentially by people putting their capital on a certain project or whatever, they're like context engineering for the AI and giving like high signal that this human has assessed this project and determined that it is like worth building or worth implementing or something. And that is like that insight is like can only come from that unique sort of human input. The AI can like do a great job, of course, analyzing the code and see how good the code is and all these things, but it might not necessarily know the like alpha that a certain human knows, that sees some sort of like broader picture or like connects some sort of idea that hey, like this is like really valuable to have, and they're willing to put their stake on it, and then that not just being the only thing, but that becomes an input to the AI to then better guide its decisions because we have that rich human signal,
Well,
and
that's why I added you could like submit a Solana address to your submission, but that could be personal. I do think like a catch-all wallet address is not ideal. I get what you're saying. I
Yeah.
just don't know how to structure it where it's a good UX.
So I mean, this is what Farcastle's for. But we have like it's on EVM, not Solana. I'm sure we could like vibe code a Solana equivalent, but basically like each project is like a Moloch DAO essentially, and by putting money into it, you just like sending Sol or ETH to that address. It's like a yeeter, and you get back shares, which you can also then later rage quit, which I think is also a cool thing to have. And then because like the rage quitability allows the funds to like be dynamically allocating throughout the period where once the 30 days is over, then it's like set in stone, like whichever one had however many funds, they can then get distributed to the people that built the project. But that I think is a good model or UX for it, where people contribute and get shares in that raid essentially, and then they can participate in that raid if they want, or
Yeah, I gotta do
just
some research on. There's something called Launchcoin that I think is more geared towards these ideas. I haven't
mm,
looked into it that much, but from what I've been hearing in a peripheral, it kind of is that. But yeah, it is a bit easier said than done for doing this on Solana. So I just want to find ways to,
mm,
yeah, look for a simple solution. A
yeah,
lot of the past participants on the show have been tokenized projects already. So like there's the incentive for them to be on there for visibility.
yeah. Yeah, I'm curious like how good AI is at writing Solana contracts now. Um, and I wonder if there's any like sort of specialized
Right.
models or prompts or something for um, Solana like contract generation with things. Because if so, then it wouldn't be too difficult to do. Um,
But this is the core part, I think
yeah.
this is the cornerstone to like how to build something people feel incentivized to contribute to and
Hmm.
get the flywheel going.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure we keep the UX simple and accessible and fun.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I think like so. What were you thinking in terms of prizes for this? Um, like besides the financial prize pool, the
I'm gonna keep the stakes low for this first round because it's just kicking the tires,
uh-huh.
and
But like
then
you'd still have like some sort of cosmetic rewards at least, right? Like some sort of badge or
yeah.
something.
We just we just did a whole audit of Character Studio, fixing all the security issues. My internet's crapping out right now, but Character Studio is ready for Solana integration.
Hmm.
I think Video Ninja is like eating up my bandwidth.
Oh yeah,
It's
I
not
can.
even Discord's working.
Let me. I'm gonna drop the bandwidth of the room. I have it on high quality right now, so I will tune it down. There you go. Should be a third of the bandwidth I was using before now.
Yeah,
I can also even turn off my video.
Character Studio, it has integration, which we could test here as well but ultimately it would just be a 2D NFT, just like a badge.
Hmm.
Um, and then later we could do. I also took a snapshot. Something I want to test in this as well is I've a snapshot from 6 months ago of all holders, and then I have a snapshot from yesterday, and I did a diff to
Hmm.
kind of see who the diamond hands were.
Mm-hmm. Diamond hand for which token? Like
Well,
Eliza?
just yeah, AI16Z, and
Got
then
it.
I also have it to kind of add a quadratic funding multiplier
Hmm.
to if you send any amounts with a memo, it'll look at the sender address and then yeah, it'll boost your voting power according to how much you have at the time of the snapshot.
Mm.
And I was thinking about also doing like another badge for diamond hands people who
Yeah.
didn't sell 80% of their stack. It does it based on how much they retained, like,
Mm.
and I set it to 80%.
So here's an interesting idea. When it comes to people funding raids, taking into account, like applying that scalar to, whatever they contribute, would be pretty cool, and like a nice sort of UX that would encourage people to participate and put in money, because they would see that, if they put in like a few dollars, if they've been like holding a lot of AI16Z, that like few dollars might be worth like $50 or $100 worth of weight on that raid. Um, so, and
Yeah,
yeah,
and
how
we
we
can
how
do
we weigh
stuff
like
that like is
their choices or
limited
something.
to people who are diamond hands only, or like once we keep gathering analytics about the holders, like we can do more sophisticated types of votes, like as well with the GitHub data, like someone who is like funding. Yeah, there's just a lot that we can do once we have more data on not just like the funders, but the builders and people who execute
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, yeah. I think like another interesting component of this will be like having some of the top level entry points or kind of categories of like funding to flow. So, we have all this like stuff happening at the edges, like people, going on individual raids and building out individual features with certain PRs and stuff. And then like they'll be grouped together into certain areas or initiatives or something. But then, at the end of that, having like the funnel where any sort of source of funding, uh, or like retroactive public goods type funding stuff could go into like one of those buckets and then automatically flow through like that mathematical representation of whatever value was created to the individual raids or the people that funded those raids. And the so initially like the financial incentive might not be there, but later on, like that could become the sustainable funding mechanism that encourages people to participate in, making small contributions to the small, grassroots initiatives or the data or the activity happening at the edges, to,
It would
curate or
be
highlight
also
that.
interesting to like track their win rate to create
Mm-hmm.
like a pseudo prediction market thing.
Exactly. Yeah. The.
Well, wouldn't that involve like limiting what they can vote on? Like, because for example, polymarket is yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
So you need only have one vote per wallet then if you were to do something like that.
Um, can you elaborate? Why would it only be one vote per wallet? Like
Well,
if
I
someone
guess
wants
it
to
can be
contribute
spread
more.
out. Like maybe you have only so much voting power that you can distribute it like quadratically across a number of projects, and if they pan out to be good projects, however we quantify that,
Mm-hmm.
then we could call that a. Then we could like score that wallet as being like a good predictor.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be like one person, one vote for that. I think like someone can choose to contribute a lot more money to a lot more initiatives, but they'll just have a lower hit rate, and they'll just like um we can calculate it, they can still donate like more money to a single thing, but we can treat a single raid as still like a win or loss. Like that's still separate from how much they put in or how much like voting or influence or contribution they had in a given raid. Um, yeah,
I
and
have a part of the data pipeline for the council where we also do we have a Discord bot that can ask the same questions we're asking the council,
hmm
and it can be like a daily or weekly uh, survey
Hmm.
and that could be an interesting way to kind of see where one aligns with the AI on various things. It would need like an editor, because sometimes the questions aren't always super relevant,
Hmm.
but it is pretty good at just like asking like things that I feel are very much within like all of our interests because it is based on data. Like, how should we prioritize something about this plugin or whatever,
Yeah.
for, and then we have multiple choice, and then you can do like other. So we already automate daily surveys that the council will answer, but maybe we could turn this into a prediction market as well that we can
Hmm.
figure out like maybe it can be a form of RLHF for the to tweak the council's judgment on various things.
Exactly.
Even yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That's the entire point. Is like getting people to spend their own money indicates that it's like a high quality signal that people, you know, once you're putting your own money, then you're going to be much more uh, careful about where you put it and how you allocate it, and how you rate something or whatnot. So that is like a very good way to inject that bit of human steering to the otherwise like mostly AI powered analysis and decision making.
yeah,
And there has to be like a bidirectional feedback loop as well, because you want to use AI to equip the humans to make as good of a judgment as possible. So, the humans don't have to read through the code base and know what the work has been done, but we have like the AI
distilled
summaries and
human
AI
judgment.
information. Yeah. Like in that Andre Carpathy talk too about how, he thinks in the next like 5 years, like human in the loop systems will be or like semi-autonomous systems where it's like really engaging a human in the loop is going to be much more powerful than like fully autonomous agentic stuff that is more popular right now. But I think the these things where there's like uh, both AI informing humans and then humans using that information to then make some sort of decision and like allocation or signal that then the AI feeds on to then uh, analyze or score or allocate further. So there's the kind of like analysis, ingestion, like compression of information fed to a human. Then from that human input, you then like take that and distribute or steer what the AI does, like or what the AI suggests for like future thinking stuff. So process, compress like history of what has been done, take in human input in that loop, and then output
Yeah,
what should be done, in a forward thinking way. And that's kind of like once you repeat that loop over and over, that's how the whole community can kind of progress forward at a certain pace.
yeah. I want to find a way to utilize this without overwhelming people with surveys.
Yeah.
And also, like, I'm just currently working on some basics, like setting up the website for these shows, like Clank Tank and the News and Council soon as well.
Hmm.
And we could figure out something for the leaderboard where it's not a GitHub page, and then like hooking it up into just basic achievements for participating, and we can come up with a bunch of different badge ideas, but I want to do something with achievements.
Hmm.
It's like it's one of the lighter lifts, and then I do want to kick off this hackathon this week, um, and figure out where it breaks in, and figure out like what how to capture data, like feedback from. We're already doing this in various channels, like that's how we get this, like
Yeah.
we're getting user feedback and all sorts of really good stuff that um, makes its way back into this pipeline. So
Hmm.
that part's already settled. It doesn't really make its way into how the judges are judging this hackathon yet, but we can connect that later. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just want to make this system not complicated at the start. I want to make it fun,
Yeah.
make it easy to participate as a builder and as a funder,
Mhm.
and then for people to see the bigger picture, like with maybe one feature, like for example, if I implement role detection when you sign in, and then you can like comment on a project that makes its way into the show, like some comment from the audience or something.
Mhm.
That is like a token incentive, for people who hold a certain amount that they could influence the AIs, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and that, I guess you can extrapolate from there. But that's what I've been cooking on, and
Yeah. I think that the comment idea could be like a good MVP to start, where they're submitting a comment instead of like their own funding per se, but that comment itself should be like weighted as if it's like some sort of what do you call it, like curation of that, or signal
I can
towards
have the
that
judges like
thing.
in Discord too, talking. They could return on the show like, well, I talked to them and they don't really think it's all that great, or
Yeah.
they think it's awesome. It's like it almost adds this breaking the fourth wall and of the agent like escaping the show.
Yeah, that's like I think like that's absolutely necessary, right? Like that's where the future is like when these agents can interact seamlessly with the real world as much as, humans can.
It's
And it you can simulate that basically by things that you're saying, it's very lo-fi where it's just like humans submitting comments, then like separately agents, reacting to those comments in a like generated show. But the immersive feeling that gives
yes,
is still
and
like,
it's the narrative.
yeah.
You know, uh, it's like AI and VC and a game show, like wrapping it all into attentionomics. It's a
Hmm.
powerful, fun narrative, and that's what makes us stand apart.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm kind of lagging here. I think maybe it's part of the weather as well, but I did want to discuss like sprint stuff, like M3 could fund
Mm.
like the next sprint with multi-repo now that we've got that built in, and like tying it
Mm.
all. Like I want to start to this system, like a lot of the underlying data layer is almost done to the point where we can start to kind of work on the fun visual
Yeah.
front end stuff, and
Yeah.
that's where people can finally kind of understand how it all connects together. So yeah, I kind of told you what I was thinking in terms of like budget, and that could be like a test run as well for the whole concept of like raids, um, and we can figure out monetization, or I don't know how, like as a funder it would circle back, other than like this is something I believe we need,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of DAOs and open source projects. Like, I mean, that's why I got into crypto. Like, and
Hmm.
I think we're on the cusp of solving some big challenges in public goods funding. There's a open invite as well if you want to travel to Iceland for some retreat related to public goods funding. I can't go, but some cool peeps are going.
What's it
I'll
called?
send you the link. I'll send you the link here.
Research retreat. Interesting.
Impact Evaluator.
Oh,
It
nice.
sounds really right up our alley.
Yeah. Impact evaluators. My friend Joel came up with that like a few years ago. He like worked on ceramic. Uh, Super cool guy. But yeah,
Nice.
this was who's here? Oh yeah, Juan, of course. Juan Benet's like Protocol Labs funded SourceCred. Like they're the kind of main funders of SourceCred. When we were building that, Juan's like um, OG SourceCred nerd. So
Yeah, I've met him.
um, nice. This is cool. When is it? Uh,
It's kind of coming up.
July. Oh yeah, it's two. It's like middle of my friend's wedding, so probably won't
Yeah,
make it, but
short
it's
notice.
cool.
Sorry.
No, no, it's all good. Um, but yeah, I'm cool. I'm curious to see how that
I
materializes.
I kind of see what we need to do. I just rather build. I'm like avoiding a bunch of conferences and events just because like the path to me is like
Yeah.
pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Um, yeah, same here pretty much. I don't like in fact I'm kind of avoiding like taking in too much input from like other people and externally to like not
Yeah.
dilute what's already in my head because I have that like similar sort of um trajectory that I see right now that I want to like see through. So yeah. Um I think the yeah with the multi-repo stuff, I was just like iterating on a bunch of different things for like how we could visualize it in the front end in a um in the right way. But the more I played with it, the more like I realized it's gonna be really dependent on how we expect people to, or like what's a underlying purpose or reason people would be interacting with these things, and depending on that, we would surface different information in different ways. And like I'm like starting to
Well,
lean
we
more
we are kind of
towards
doing that uh almost a like adjacent to this. Like we use this data for the shows, like the council.
yeah.
Like so like all the AIs already have context about who is working on
Uh-huh.
what are the kind of current, like what should we prioritize and stuff like that. Well, user feedback as well to kind of keep things on track.
Mhm.
So yeah, we're already using the daily, weekly, monthly summaries in that sense, and I think the user front end for like a casual community person is gonna be these animated shows.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so like that was one thing I was thinking about is like the interactive UI that I'm thinking of is looks very different if it's designed for, like community consumption of just like
Think
reading
about this as
updates.
composable. Like,
Yeah.
you know how a weatherman gets in front of the green screen?
Yeah.
Like, think about that for AI news. Like, something that they can flash up on screen and kind of talk through it.
Yeah.
We're missing that. Well, that's kind of what I wanted the remotion sprint for, but
Yeah. So yeah,
yeah.
so like that's one side of it. And so for me like up until this point I've been building this and sort of thinking about this from like a perspective of like a singular product that's going to be consumed in a specific way. But now with what you're talking about, okay, there's like these remotion versions, the blog post versions, like all these kind of different manifestations of the same underlying information and data. um, the
Yep.
the way that we can or like the things that we choose to show and how we show them, it should be sort of like tailored to each of the formats or mediums. And so with with Remotion, if all we want to do is like make a video version of these like daily summaries, that's one thing. But you know, we have to, if you think more instead about like what is the frequency people would be viewing these videos and on what time frames, then we can kind of uh, design it to, instead of like just a single video based on a summary of the day, have different videos like summarizing different areas of the repo or different repos. And uh, the common pattern that comes back every time is like the more atomic you get, the better and easier it is to like uh, transform that data or view the same data from a different lens. So right now we like, and this is I have some of this like or like segments of this implemented as a part of the multi-repo work, but you know, instead of like feeding the raw data of all the work for a certain day into the AI, you feed it the summaries of all the work of each of the individual elements of the work done in that day. So like each PR of that day gets summarized independently, and that summary exists like completely separate from the daily summary. But then the daily
Yeah.
summary can choose to consume that, or like the remotion can choose to consume, like a certain set of PRs and things like that. So the like that was one common pattern is like the atomicity and like kind of running the AI processes, starting on an atomic level first and then moving upwards. And the other thing was like, as I was like working through the new scoring system, I realized like the it's gonna need to be like very dynamic, and there needs to be like a rich interface for configuring that in a intuitive way, beyond just like directly editing the JSON like score weights, right? So imagine like imagine like a node based type graphical editor where people can prompt the database with like some description of like give me all the PRs related to this thing, and then it analyzes the PR summaries and extracts like, wait, here's a list of PRs, and makes a grouping, and then the person like can take that set of data, whether it's like scoped by time, or scoped by feature, or scoped by whatever it is, like there's different dimensions you can extract from it, and then take that and then say, okay, I want to take this data set and generate like the remotion video out of it, or I want to take this data set and generate a raid out of it that can
Yeah, that
receive
makes sense.
funding. And so the those are the two things I'm kind of thinking of. And so this is kind of like, because with AI stuff, if you just kind of start chasing like down a certain path, it'll kind of guide you and kind of create momentum along that path. So like being really intentional about what's the kind of desired end goal, or like how it should ideally work like down the road, uh, will help to us like lay the foundation for that now. So yeah, like the and it's very like the way we've modeled the data and stuff. It's like it's perfect for this sort of thing that we're trying to do. And so just like this, where you see people can like copy like a daily summary, imagine like the same type of thing, but instead of this is just like grouping all the data or all the activity by a certain day because it's an easy way to group it, but they can create their own groupings, like query the data for a certain subset that like they're interested in, see like what was done, who worked on it, and then copy that data set and turn it into a raid, turn it into whatever else they want, or interoperate it with the other
Well, can't
systems
we
that we're
just like
building.
slap an API on this?
Yeah, you can, but um, it's more about the interface in which people will craft the query of what data to select from the API or from the database. Um, like that being a nice sort of like graphical way to navigate that, I think will be like very, very useful.
I
And
think that'll be like good for DevX, but ultimately the easy way is like just giving that to an agent's RAG system, and you know talking to it.
yeah, exactly. That's basically what I intend to have. It'll like it does kind of change the structure a bit, where maybe we could get people to just put in their own API keys or whatnot, but they,
Well,
they
then
would talk to an agent
with this
basically.
way, we would have like ElizaOS that could tap into the data of ElizaOS ecosystem, which can almost help to accelerate project manage and do all sorts of stuff. But like
Yeah,
people can then create all sorts of different personalities, agents,
yeah. I
facets of
mean, there's a good argument
software
to be
dev.
made that we should be building an agent for this like leaderboard, as a way to interact with it, and so that is something I was thinking of as well. Uh, but I just like haven't like dug deep enough into like the new V2 framework and the feasibility of actually implementing it as an agent. But either way, even if we do decide to implement it as an agent, the underlying uh, process
It's
should
been
still be
mostly
there.
multi-agent at the moment. Like the new show is like the current closest version of this, which is Eliza, Mark, and Shaw AI, like going through latest GitHub updates, is most of AI news actually.
Hmm.
But it could be an agent that also is something that it's kind of hard to do one for the all the data that we're getting. It's
Yeah.
like I think it would have to be multiple. Like I'm getting, like taking this data and cross-referencing with Discord
Hmm.
to do, like triangulation and finding ways that we could connect user feedback to open issues or VRs, kind of, yeah, like that whole pipeline.
Yeah.
But in terms of just like surfacing and communicating it, we only have the show and we don't have a dedicated Eliza that you can just talk to
Hmm.
and get summarized context about, like who's working on what um, across all these repos as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So the um, initial
Yeah,
version
that's a
of
good
it,
hackathon project.
yeah, the that's the initial version I have. It doesn't like so these summaries technically are multi-repo. It's just like not really highlighting. You can see like the data, the updates here include like updates from plugins. Um, it's just that there's not like it's not clear that
Click pull request.
yeah, here so you can see. Um,
How can you tell
Here, so this UI is not
where it
updated yet.
belongs to?
This UI is not updated yet
Okay,
for
yeah.
certain repos, but you can probably let me open some of these, or maybe the query might need to be updated as well. But yeah, like how we show um, the different repos and the updates for uh, you know each repo. Um, like splitting up the pull requests into either like different sections for each repo or having like repo dedicated sections with their own little like pull request badge. Um, there's a few different versions I've been like playing around with, but uh, yeah,
I think maybe just on the main summary, just have it as like a markdown header, depending on what repo you're talking about. That was easy to read.
yeah. But yeah, for the markdown, that's how it'll probably go. Um,
And for other stuff, just I think it can be simple, just a little UI element.
yeah,
But we'll prioritize maybe the main repo at the top, and then uh, have a way to, maybe it's through color or, yeah, something else that we can. Is it also in the copy? When you copy the daily info, like, oh, it's
the
everything. Yeah.
what is in the copy? Like,
Does it get all the context for all the repos we're
let me
tracking?
see. I think it does in the summaries, but not the like JSON data. So it's yeah, the queries probably need to be updated for that. Can make a PR for that today. Um, yeah, like right now I think it's like only the summary generation takes in the multi repo data because the other code is probably still hard coded to fetch just for the main repo,
Got it.
which we can update. Yeah, the one consideration is for like for example, if for the monthly summary, if we include like all the data of all the repos, it might be like huge amount of data. Um, so how detailed we get with it, I guess. Um, you could maybe let users just configure that in the UI and still let them copy the huge context if they want, as long as we make sure it's like under 100K or something.
I kind of think a API makes a lot of sense for this.
Well, yeah, I mean, the having like an actual API server will require us to like run and host a backend. Um,
It's not that hard.
and
Like
so,
I've learned fast API.
yeah, I mean, it's not about difficulty. It's super easy to do. It's just a matter of like having that centralized dependency, um, of like, and also the cost of running that if there's going to be potentially a lot of people querying it, versus like this was some of the stuff I was researching before. You can actually convert the GitHub, like the SQLite data stored in GitHub branch into like essentially an API where people can query that, query segments of that database split up by day essentially, um, and without having to actually host an API into that. And so like there's that, and there's like a SQLite MCP. It's kind of like an agent native API into this. And like for I didn't get to this part when I was explaining some of the more dynamic front end stuff, but the way I want to implement this on the front end is actually have the front end store like a local version of the SQLite data and sync any changes as they get updated in GitHub to the local instance. And so it's pretty cool with like web workers and WebAssembly. You can have SQLite running as a web worker in the browser. And so the first time the user opens like that specific more dynamic view, it might take a while if they want to like ingest like the whole history of the whole repo. But once they do that, it could be like super super fast, and they can essentially like uh, query or parse like whatever data they want like really quickly, or plug it into as an MCP to another like local uh, AI thing running, and do kind of stuff with it that way.
Yeah,
And like I think
Ethereum's kind of doing that.
what is
I found I was on a space and I learned about this. I'll send you the link. They have an MCP server. They hooked up a whole bunch of. They've been aggregating like forums and a bunch of stuff.
oh nice, that's pretty dope. Wow.
The stuff that we're building for Eliza, which I wanted to culminate into agents, so that we can then adapt it to Ethereum and Optimism, Superchain, etc.
Yeah, yeah, this is pretty similar to how I imagined it, like being able to just like query it as an MCP.
I think that's optimal, because using with agent tools, you can just use natural language.
Yeah, for sure.
Easier, I think, than an API as well.
V3X auth. What is this?
Yeah, I didn't actually set it up.
It's cool they're using Authentic. It's like a self-hosted auth server. Yeah, this is yeah exactly what I imagined too. Is like building this sort of chat into the interface,
Yes.
but then like the results showing up is not just text, but like interactive UI similar to what we have like on the homepage.
With
Um,
citations and things.
yeah, like citations and things, but being able to like do richer things with that set of things they selected. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, what you were describing reminds me of an infinite canvas or a force graph, one of them.
yeah. Um, so they're probably like sponsoring these tokens or something.
OpenRouter has some free tiers, but yeah, probably.
Oh yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, these. Oh no, they have Sonnet here, so it's not free tier. Yeah, so see, like this is super cool for people to be able to do, like talk to it in natural language and like get some insight out of it. But I think like the next level of that is being able to take whatever insight they extracted, based on what they thought would be like good information or useful information, um, and turn it into some sort of like artifact or, something that then people can view like their sort of filter on that underlying data, and get insight from it. So, whether it's like turning into a video or whatever it is, or turning into a raid, representing all the kind of activity it's selected, uh, like that allows for, you know, something beyond just like, one human or humans individually talking to like the models of the data raw directly, but then, taking those higher level representations or more condensed, concentrated information, and putting it out as something like useful, or valuable, a curation of data or information, like this context, like if talking about like context engineering, they've extracted this context or engineered this context. And so that being a reusable artifact, is, I think, what the next step is for these kind of tools.
Oh, look at that. That's pretty decent.
Uh, Looking at what I'm sharing, or
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we need we're at the step right before this, I think, to
mm,
put MCP or a chat interface
yeah,
on top of the data. We've
yeah,
got good data, and yeah, in terms of the UX, we can keep going down that road. But I think we're at the point where if we just kind of settle with like fixing some of the bug stuff, like the copy page and
yeah, yeah. No, that's
fixing the
definitely
markdown,
first. Yeah,
yeah, then let's just kind of go towards, I guess, not too much of the 2D stuff, but like MCP and creating an agent, yeah, which can be part of this hackathon as well,
mm,
and integrating it into um, Remotion as well for some snippets. But um, I think just even an MCP and an agent
Yeah.
would go a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, they kind of go hand in hand a little bit. Like the agent would need an MCP to like interact with, or should have an MCP to interact with, ideally. And people can plug in their own agents to the MCP as well. Um, cool. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, like an hour. Um, I'll push some of those fixes for the copy button and data for the front end, and continue from there.
Okay, yeah, I got a bunch to do today, but after that's fixed, you can just like shoot me. Um, I usually for people who are doing stables for an M3 treasury, it's like 2K in stables a month
Mm-hmm.
spending limit. So if that helps, um, we can set that up with whatever eth address you sent.
Sure.
And yeah, I just want to continue forward with really kind of starting to connect this big picture wise with in a way that people can interact with on a meaningful, fun. I think the fun is going to come from the achievements meta and
Yeah.
also when it plugs into agents too, because we'll meet users where they are.
Yeah. Like people having their own characters and like leveling them up.
Characters will be aware of their own like creation. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of trippy, you know. It's like they start to understand like who's working on them and like who's expanding their abilities. Like
Mm.
it could get kind of meta.
Yeah.
Like then they can like help out with like how do they accelerate their own developments with
Mm.
this.
Yeah. Word. All right. I will get onto this then. I realize I have to merge this one, so I'm gonna do that first, and then continue with some of the fixes there.
Cool. Sounds good. Great catching up. I
Yeah.
gotta work on these websites as well. And let me know if you need anything.
Yeah. Keep me updated on how the hackathon stuff goes. And if you want any other like feedback or help with the website on there.
Yeah, I'm gonna circle back to you on how to make the contribution incentive pipeline better. That needs more implementation work. But
Hmm.
for now, this first hackathon run, the stakes are low, and I want things to break anyways. So
Yeah.
it's kind of not a huge priority for this first run.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Alrighty, good chat. I'll catch you later. See ya.
Cheers.